The 1920s, also known as the Jazz Age, saw a period of distinctive cultural change in Canada. This was a time of recession as well as the birth of new inventions. Soldiers coming back from the Great War experienced factories shutting down and new immigrants integrating into Canada's workforce. The post-war recession gave way to many disputes, one of them being the Winnipeg General Strike. Then, the mid-20s experienced a huge turn in the economy and way of life. The discovery of new inventions created more jobs. Moreover, new forms of entertainment such as Hollywood and jazz music challenged societal norms and developed an aura of confidence and attitude in women. The cultural change in Canada can be seen by examining the Group of Seven, Art Deco, and the invention of the radio. The Group of Seven is a Canadian art group that emerged in the 1920s and were devoted to depicting the Canadian landscape in a series of paintings. They first exhibited together in the 1920s and aimed to capture the essence of Canadian spirit. It consisted of artists Lauren Harris, Arthur Lismer, Franz Johnston, J. E. H. MacDonald, Frank Carmichael, A. Y. Jackson, and F. H. Varley. Later on, in 1926, Johnston was replaced by A. J. Casson. The group met at a design firm in Toronto, but couldn't create an exhibition because of the war in which Jackson and Varley served as war artists. So, after the war ended, their first exhibition was in 1920, a time where most people presumed that the Canadian landscape was too ugly to present in the form of artwork. The Group of Seven proved them wrong and continued to portray the Canadian spirit with their paintings. In 1931, they had their final exhibition, and a few years later, the Canadian Group of Painters was formed and included some of the artists from the original Group of Seven. Currently, McMichael Canadian Art Collection holds ownership of their artwork as well as a collection of paintings from the group's contemporaries. Contemporaries are people or living things that existed during the same time period. Some of the group's most famous contemporaries are Emily Carr, J. W. Morris, Morris Cullen, and Tom Thompson. Emily Carr was the only woman artist in the contemporary group. She lived from 1871 to 1945 and was Canada's most famous West Coast painter. Her name is often associated with the group, and in 1927 she met the Group of Seven at one of their exhibitions. The work of the Group of Seven and its contemporaries developed a sense of nationalism in Canada and gives recognition to the variety of Canada's landscape. While these artists strive to present Canada's landscape, Art Deco strived to create a renewed sense of style and design in not only paintings but in buildings as well. Art Deco, according to Dictionary.com, is the style of decorative art developed originally in the 1920s with a revival in the 1960s, marked chiefly by geometric motifs, curvilinear forms, sharply defined outlines, often bold colors, and the use of synthetic materials such as plastics. While this form of design gained prominence in the early 1920s, the term Art Deco wasn't coined until the 1960s. Art Deco was derived from the name Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs Industriels et Modernes, which was held in Paris. The origins of this visual art design style go back to France in the 1910s, and it gained international recognition in the 1920s. The bold use of colors and the intricate geometric shapes became very popular around the world, and especially in America. Some of the materials used in Art Deco include stucco, concrete, any type of smooth-faced stone, and terracotta. Art Deco designs were more suitable for interiors such as cinemas and ocean liners like the Queen Mary, and the architecture of train stations. Some of the most famous architectural buildings that featured Art Deco include the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, the Alder Building in Montreal, and the Canada Building built in 1928 in Windsor. Over time, Art Deco lost popularity due to the arrival of World War II, but made a comeback in the 1960s. While the Group of Seven and Art Deco were art to the eyes, music in the 1920s was art to the ears. The Roaring Twenties was a time of technological advancement and inventions. One of the popular forms of entertainment during this time period was the radio. It connected the country and was a great source of communication. Women doing the laundry would listen to the radio, though the use of large headphones was quite inconvenient. The invention of the radio was a race between two scientists named Nicholas Tesla and Guglielmo Marconi. Radio broadcasting began with the broadcasting of KDKA, which is a broadcasting station. People all over North America wanted to buy a radio, and this created an economic boom. The demand of radios was so large that suppliers couldn't keep up with production. By 1922, 600 radio stations had sprung up around the U.S. Whether it be art, architecture, music, literature, or technology, the Roaring Twenties experienced a change in society that still affects society today. The invention of the radio led to more advancements in its technology. Radios have evolved from big boxes with inconvenient headphones to small built-in mobile radios in every car and cell phone. The radio wasn't the only technology. The first dial telephone appeared in Toronto in 1924. Moreover, the Group of Seven helped define Canadian identity when nobody was interested in doing so. The 1920s were rightly named the Jazz Age because of the popularity of jazz music in this decade. The most well-known piece of literature, The Great Gatsby, was written in 1926 and is a classic story enjoyed by children and adults alike. In conclusion, the cultural change in the 1920s was a way for people to try and forget the terrible decade before, and a renewal of society as a whole.